Hello everyone, this is Andrew with Andrew Peche Photography. So today we're going to cover cloning techniques for real estate photography. We don't always have time to do A+ work with our cloning, and today I'm going to go over techniques that I use to do cloning efficiently, yet you do a very good job with it. The irony is that much of the cloning work we do doesn't require cloning work at all. So let's take a closer look and jump on in there. Alright guys, so here we are at the computer, and a lot of you will recognize this. The first thing you want to do though when you're cloning is not to clone at all, right? And a lot of you will recognize this from a couple weeks ago, where if you want to clone something, you don't necessarily have to clone it, okay? So in this example, I have this lockbox in the way, and what I did was I just jumped into the frame and I got that area, that initial area clear, okay? And so this is a form of cloning. It's a really clean, it's the cleanest and easiest way to do it, okay? And so you would just mask this, and then you would brush that out, and that'll be it. All right, you get a little, okay, and you're already done. All right, so that's the number one way to clone stuff, if you can move it. You always want to move it so that you get that area clear, and that you can just composite it out in post. All right, so that should be your first option. So we're going to go ahead and continue on with these techniques where you have a mind frame where you're taking care of things in post. And in this case, I had a couple little dog toys, and they were over here originally. I unfortunately didn't get a photo of it. And what I did is I just kicked them out into the middle of the floor. You know, I don't really want to touch stuff, you know, to be perfectly honest. I just kick them out. I probably should have kicked them out here, right? That would have been even better. It was a little bit close. But of course, since they're not lying right up against that thing, I just come in here and I grab for me it's the spot healing brush tool, and this should be a really quick job, right? So we already got that. See, it looks a little funky, so I might just grab the clone stamp tool and get that right out. Okay, get that texture back there. All right, but that's quick enough. And you also might want to grab that spot healing brush tool again and just grab this little stuff like this out. All right. And you know, we're back far enough. This is going to be on the MLS, so that looks fine, guys. All right, guys, so continuing on with this technique of cloning in the field, you know, doing the best clone jobs you can while getting the raw materials you need in the field. I think this is the best way to clone. My client wanted me to get this sign out of here, but it was immovable. It was really like welded in there. We couldn't move that. But there's this really awkward branch behind there of like this tree, okay? So I knew that if I had him stand and hold that branch away, that I'd have a clean area to clone back there, okay? So let me go ahead and do this, and I think that'll be the best way to explain it. I knew that the biggest problem I was going to have was cloning this out and getting that tree to look good, right? So why don't we just get rid of that, all right? Just get it out of there, okay, in the field, and get that separate frame. So the first thing we would have to do is get a new layer, and we'd come over here and we'd actually clone this out. So the first thing I might try and use is the spot healing brush tool and just see how it does. Just see what it does. My cursor size is a little bit strange here, so bear with me with that. I up the size of my cursor. Let's just see how that does. So as you'll notice, the spot healing brush does well a lot of times. So it gives you a good starting point, I'd say, is one way to put it. So I'm just going to grab this. You know, now I'm using the clone stamp tool and just get rid of this. All right. So this is just quick stuff we do here, just very quick. We don't want to spend a lot of time on this. All right. And it looks good enough. You know, if you want to run over it again, you can. So there's a little bit of texture missing there. So you just get the clone stamp and just run over that a little, just to put some of that texture back, okay? But it's really not bad. Oops, I might have moved that. So if you want to do that, you can, but for this example, we're not going to get in here and like take care of that so perfectly, all right? So we're going to grab the spot healing brush back, and we're just going to get the rest of this, all right? And we're zoomed way in here. It might look a little funky, but see, that does a pretty good job. If we move back, it looks pretty good. You know, we might want to take care of that just a little bit, all right? But it looks fine to me, okay? So we've got that out of there, and now we have this extra layer where we can take my client out, right? So we'd go ahead and mask that. So I just used a mask there. I have that set up as an action. That's why you saw F1. And we're going to go ahead and get rid of him, okay, with a black brush, or a white brush, excuse me. And that's all we did there, okay? So that's how I would do something like that. Now, remember, guys, the main point here is this exact situation might not come up for you, but anytime you can move something in the field, like wires under a TV, for example, you know, when the wires hang out from underneath a wall-mounted TV, or anything that you can move, you can take 2 frames and clone it out, quote unquote, clone it with your second frame using a mask, okay? It's a much better way to clone. It's more realistic, it's more authentic, and it's easier, okay? So it's plus, 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 okay? So that's how I would handle that, and, you know, give that a try. All right, I just want to kind of formally introduce you to this spot healing brush, because that's what I use all the time. It's right here. It's called the spot healing brush tool. You can go ahead and give this healing brush tool a try, but I hardly ever use that because you have to sample, and I just find this quicker for real estate photography work. The spot healing brush tool I find quicker. So that's what you'll see me using predominantly in this particular lesson. I do use this healing brush tool for like cloning hair and stuff. Sometimes it's really good because you sample and then you can actually line up the strands of hair. Just really more intricate work. But the healing brush tools are great. They're actually really smart and they work well. And if you ever have to do like a quick clone job, like for example this outlet right here, you know, it's just so easy. You just grab it out and you know it's gone, okay? And the second, so I would do anything like that, anything really easy with the healing brush tool, because it grabs the color and it grabs the it tries to do the shading also, which that's a big part of, you know, there was a little shading right there going from a gradient, all right, and it did that for us right there, okay? So that's pretty impressive. And I shouldn't be cloning on that layer, so I'll just go ahead and redo that. I'll clone on a new layer. So that's how you should really do it. And once again, if you'll notice, we get that, it gives us that little gradient. You know, the clone tool would have given us 2, but, you know, we would have had to make sure we sampled from the right spot, okay? And so this is another little trick that I use a lot of times. And what I'll do is I'll use this healing brush tool and I'll go ahead and make a selection. And this isn't necessarily the ideal situation, but we're going to go ahead and try it anyway. I go ahead and make a selection around, and I'm not even going to go over that far. And this works a lot where I'll make a selection and I'll grab that healing brush tool and I'll just like get it out, and it'll give me a good starting point a lot of times. All right, we'll see. That might grab the carpet. It could do anything, I know, but you see, it's not bad. See, that wasn't great. So let's see if it smartens up. Like, see, it did. And this is actually quick if you timed it, you know, this would be pretty quick, okay? So look at that. I'll go ahead and deselect that. And, you know, it doesn't look that great through there, but I might, you know, just go ahead and run something like that over. And that healing brush tool is giving me that gradient, okay? So anyway, I think you can see at this point, I'd probably grab the stamp, the clone stamp tool, and I'd probably grab this out. But I'm not going to do this whole thing. I just wanted, the point of this lesson was to introduce you guys to the healing stamp tool. Did I get it right? Yeah, the spot healing brush tool. I'm sorry, the spot healing brush tool. I know how to use it, but I don't know how to say it. And just how it can give you these nice starting points, okay? And see, I'd be done with this in no time. Right after I just made that selection, I got that spot healing brush tool, and I'm up here and I'm getting this finished in really a quick amount of time, okay? It's not like a, you know, and I could even clean that up right there, what I just did. All right? So that looks acceptable. You know, you could go ahead and move on after that. It doesn't look perfect, but you're not going to spend time with real estate like making that perfect, all right? That's different clients, okay? All right, here we are back to this image, and I just want to show you the power of this spot healing brush tool. Just maybe this isn't the best example, but I really want to point out, guys, that I don't like go in and make sure like all this stuff works beforehand. I'm literally doing it right here for the first time. So, and I think that's the best way to teach because I could have problems and stuff. But I'm going to grab this, what we just talked about, the spot healing brush tool, and you see we have this car over here, and I'm not going to say this is going to do a perfect job, but I have removed cars with this spot healing brush tool. And what it does is it gives you a starting point. Okay. So don't, watch me do this and say, oh, he's an idiot, just, I might not work through the whole thing, but I would probably start this job with the spot healing brush tool. And let me just give it a shot. Okay. And we'll see how it goes, especially working with this little bit of a, my cursor isn't the size it should be, but we'll just see how this goes just as a starting point. Don't forget, we're not like finished right now. I'm not saying that. So it's probably going to grab from a bunch of different areas. It could grab those little metal things. You never know, but we'll see what it does. And see, that's not bad. I mean, now let me just kind of prove the point. So I'll grab this stamp tool. It's like stamp tool to the rescue. I know we kind of come back to the stamp tool, but the point is, I think that gave us a really nice starting point where we're just going to be able to grab this out, maybe do it again. And I mean, we're removing a car right now, that had complex stuff behind it. So, and I'm not saying this looks great, but I'm just saying it's doable. We might grab from up here a little bit, and we're already getting to the point where like nobody's going to notice this. All right, already. Okay. And I might go back to the spot healing brush tool and get the, the gutter things out. And some of these lines, you have to do a little cleanup work, of course. All right, so let me zoom in a little bit there. All right, so we'll get some of this out. And the way I'd probably take care of this, because it's looking really strange right there, on the sidewalk, that's like maybe not to the point of deliverable yet. So I'd go ahead and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but I'd grab a brush. I'd grab a straight brush and I'd probably sample this. I might select something like this and I would just take stuff like this out. Okay, this is just a straight brush. It's not it's not anything, I might move the opacity up a little bit, just sample and just brush these out because we've created these patterns here. All right, you want to take those out. Okay, and down here, we'll probably talk about this a little bit more later. You can brush this out too, anything you want. This is probably when my cloning went way up when I started using a brush just as a cloning tool. All right. That's a really big secret. You can just brush stuff with a normal brush, okay? And if we move out, I mean, guys, that doesn't look perfect. I might pull some of this stuff down. I'm realizing, the point is not to make it look so great. Don't waste your time on this stuff, okay? But we just removed a car, all right? So I should have saved it on a new layer. I forgot to do that again. Don't you guys forget to do that. I should have done that on a new layer. But, my eye isn't drawn over there, all right? It's not. So, and I just removed a car in less than, however you guys can time it, okay? But good starting point for the good place to start is the spot healing brush tool, in my opinion, okay? Just try it out. Might not work, but it takes you all 5 seconds to check it out, okay? Okay, this is the classic, right, guys? And no, the lesson is not going to be about cloning this out. That'd be very difficult. What we should have done if we wanted to clone that out is just take a frame and maybe step into the frame and move it out of the way, right? But we're not going to deal with that. My client wanted that there, so I left it there. This is a really big common thing that happens all the time though, right? So we can't obviously move our camera out and then move it back, right? So how should we take care of something like this? Well, you'll notice a lot of times you have these patterns, and in this case we have a whole other whatever this is, this cabinet door here, okay? We have an entire other door there. So let me get in there and just make a selection around that. So we'll just get in there and go ahead and select it. And this doesn't so much have to be perfect at all, because we're going to have the ability to mask it afterwards. So don't waste your time on stuff like this, okay? We just want this piece. Actually, I wouldn't even really have to do this at all. I could just clone it. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then I'm going to copy it, okay? And I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to paste that on there. So I just have that. If you'll see, I just have that on the new layer, okay? So we're going to go ahead and get the move tool and move that over. And of course it's not going to be perfect yet, right? But we're going to transform it. So Command T. And we'll go ahead and just pull these out. And what you can do is you can play with the opacity of this layer too. Go ahead and do that. Get it at opacity that works somewhere. And what I would do is I would go ahead and probably distort this is what I would do. So you just want to get the corner down there where it would be. So let's see. And again, guys, this doesn't have to be perfect, and we can mask out what we don't want. So we're getting both the perspective and the size when we do this. And I wouldn't worry too much about that. That little knob lining up, that little handle knob thing, or anything. Guys, remember, this is all for real estate, right? So we're just doing this really like kind of quickly and, not to perfection, okay? If you want to, do this, you can go ahead and take these same techniques and kind of perfect them, but we're not doing that, okay? We're just kind of doing things quick here. So I'm going to go ahead and push the opacity of that layer back up, all right? And then I'm going to go ahead and add a mask to this, just a normal mask. And I'm going to make sure I can see. And then I'm going to get a black brush, right? And, I'm at 10%. That sounds about right. And I'm just going to brush these parts away that I don't want. Okay, and you should do this relatively quick too. Don't spend time like I am right now trying to make it better than it needs to be. All right? And I probably should have transformed it a little differently where I didn't get that white piece in there, but I'm just brushing it away a little bit right now. All right. And then over there we have a little bit of a problem where we still have the tripod, but I would just go ahead and take a sample of this area with the clone stamp tool and just grab that out, okay? Oops, I was still on the mask, so that was a mistake. So to do that, to take care of that, I'd need a new layer, okay? And then I would grab this up here and just go ahead and grab that out. So we're not going to make this perfect, all right? And if you really did feel funny about that, you could take care of that. But guys, that looks fine, okay? Let me group that. Nobody's eye is being drawn to that anymore, okay? It looks a little strange, maybe up there, but it's fine, okay? That's it. It's over. Done. Don't. That's maybe the best advice I can give you in this entire lesson. Don't waste your time on this stuff, okay? Even if you did like a total hack job, like 20 times worse than this, like nobody's looking back there, okay? Even if they did, they would just think, oh, the guy's, there's something a little bit wrong with that. They're just not going to put anything together, all right? Okay, so that's how I'd recommend doing that. So always be on the lookout for patterns that you can duplicate. In this particular case, maybe we had it a little bit easy, but you could have also used, like if this wasn't over here, you could have used just this up here and copy that and put it here and like stretched it out a little bit, all right? So there's always patterns. A lot of times, I should say, there's patterns that you can go ahead and duplicate and transform onto your, the layer that you need to quote unquote clone, okay? You could, for example, take this and put it down here, and if you didn't have quite enough room, maybe take another copy of that, what you did, and put it down here and cover that, okay? I'm not going to do that because I don't want this lesson to go too long, but I hope you're getting the point. A lot of this stuff isn't cloning. It's taking what you already have, okay, and moving it over, transforming it, skewing it, and then masking it, all right? All right, guys, so this is a much more difficult situation. And what I would see here is kind of starting out with the paintbrush tool. And I want to sort of introduce you to that. This is a very difficult situation. I've found that a lot of times when I literally can't clone something, that the paintbrush tool is like the tool to go to, okay? So the first thing I would do with this, it's very difficult. You might want to go ahead and take care of it in the field like I was saying before. But you want to maybe get in here, and the first thing you're going to have to do is kind of try and visualize where that line is going. So we have a pretty good starting point to work with. We can use this, we can go ahead and use this. This would be the toilet seat top, and I would just say we can turn this into a toilet seat top, okay? Even though this is like this is not the lid. This is the thing people sit on, right? So we're going to turn it into the top though, whatever that called, the lid, okay? And I would use the paintbrush tool here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I would try and do here. I'd use the pen tool, and I would try and come around here like this. I would definitely make a selection here, come around. It doesn't have to be all that perfect right here. I would just come out here. And I'm not going to go into how to use the pen tool in this particular video, but it's definitely, you're definitely going to have to, know how to use this to make these curved lines. All right. And I would just try and get maybe right in there. Let's see. So I'm going to try and keep in mind we're going fast here. Excuse me. We're going to try and go fast. We're not going to do a perfect job on this. So this line, you're going to have to try and visualize what it would do. And I'm not very good at this, but I'm guessing like something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and try and do it all in one shot. Okay? Because I think that'll be the most natural. If I try and do it like with multiple tries, I feel like I'll just make it worse. Okay, so I'm going to just try and see it in my head. It will probably come back something like this and end up right here. So I'm going to go ahead and try and simulate what I just saw in my head. Okay, that arcing back. Again, I'm not the best at this. I would think like an artist that can draw this stuff would be better at something like this. I'm not like good at drawing, but some of you guys probably are. Okay, but that's my starting point, all right? And let me just get a selection out of that pen path by hitting Command Return. And the thing I would start with is the brush here. And I would just go ahead and sample this area right here with holding down Alt, just sample that and just start brushing this in, okay? You might want to get a little feather on here, all right? So we'll go ahead and feather that, maybe a pixel, that'll do. Okay, and we're going to just, again, sample this area and just start painting that away. So the first thing we're taking care of is this area within the selection, okay? You might want to sample another color, just a little darker shade. And it's going to look a little bit light back there. So I might want to just grab this and get a bigger brush and just sort of, taper that a little, okay? So now we got to get, it looks, that looks okay. I'm not going to say this stuff looks perfect, okay, guys, but it looks okay. So now we're going to have to try and get rid of all this other crap, right? So I would just go ahead and start selecting again. So I'm going to get I'm going to make sure that I'm not getting too much of this red in here, but I'm going to go ahead. It's not going to be too long of a selection job, right? Because I'm practically done right now, like with the selection job. You want to kind of get around this as much as you can. You never want to try not to get too close with your selections. You want to give yourself some room because I found that when you're brushing, you don't want that line to be close to where you're brushing. Okay. Let's see. I probably should have used that last selection, but it's all right. Okay, I'll just get in here a little bit more and I'll go ahead and select that again. Okay, I know we did that with one foul swoop, so it should line up again. Again, I probably should have just inversed that, but I wasn't that last selection we had, but I wasn't thinking too good there, but that's all right. We'll just do it this way. And so we got a new selection now. We'll go ahead and hit Command Enter. And we're going to try and take care of this now. Again, going as fast as we can, right? So the way I know you've seen this before, but the way I might take a stab at using this spot healing brush tool and just see what happens. This will only take you a second, guys. So just try it out. It might not work, okay? But let's just see what happens. Let's see how that does. It might pick that up. See, it did pretty good. Now, let me just jump back for a minute. Look at the starting point. What would you rather clone, that or that? So that's the power of that spot healing brush. I mean, I'd much rather start here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do another spot healing brush here. Just see what it does. It might help me out a lot. And that looks pretty good. It's trying to blend in with that, but that time it did good, okay? That time it looked good. Okay, that time it didn't, so you just undo that, okay? And you want to go ahead and deselect that. So how I'd probably do that, let's see. I'd probably get my last selection, so reselect, and then go down there. And let's see, so I'd want the inverse of that. So select inverse, and I just probably do it with the paintbrush again. So I'm going to hide it and go ahead and grab the paintbrush and just get in here and just, it should be, let's see where my selection is. Yeah, it should be doing that. So we might have to feather that a little. Or it could have been my opacity is too low too. Let's see, let's try that again. Oh, I'm painting on a color layer. All right, so guys, that's a good mistake to see. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back down to the clone layer where I should have been. All right, and there we go. So what I did there is it's just painting too dark, so I'm gonna undo that. Go ahead and undo that, and then just do it in little, oops, go back. I love it when you guys get to see this fumbling around. All right, and we'll just start getting rid of that. That looked a little funny, so we can just correct that a little. I'm trying to go as fast as I can, and I know this is for real estate, so I think that's not so bad right at this point. We might want to take care of, like, with the stamp tool, just quickly grab whatever that is, even though that wasn't even part of what we're doing. And then we might want to grab this top too, right? So I would probably just do something like this. All right, and let's see, in there you have that shadow. So this is another little complex one, so I might start off with the clone stamp and just line that up. Okay, and through here I'd probably use the paintbrush. So I just don't want to, the shadow is just going to look a little funny if I paint all the way. So kind of get that line straight right there. And then I'd use this for this area. Okay, and you can kind of fix this after the fact if it doesn't look perfect. So this is taking a little longer than what I wanted, but we'll see what we can do here. That's not looking great, but let's take care of that. All right, so what I might do to kind of clean all this up is grab kind of a mid-range color and just kind of brush through here. All right, it looks a little bit harsh right there, but let's just pull back and see how we're looking. All right, it looks a little strange, but I think it's okay, guys. Nobody is going to be looking at stuff like that. Okay, and if you want to fix it a little, you can grab the natural shadow, which is right here, clone stamp it in and grab the natural shadow. Okay, so that might have been a little roundabout way what I did there, but I think it looks fine. Nobody's going to be looking in there, okay, unless they're looking at kind of that paint job. Okay, so maybe like get that little bit right there. I thought looked a little weird when I was back. All right, so that's it. Again, don't hold me to like trying to do perfection on these. Okay, I'm trying to go quick, and I know some of these may not look perfect, but I don't think anybody's looking down there on that shot. Okay, so that was a tough one. I hope you get just the gist of it. And if you wanted to sort of refine this to look maybe a little better, of course you could. You come in here with the clone stamp tool. That edge was looking a little weird to me, so you kind of smooth that out a little bit. Something like that, and you can go ahead and spend as long as you want on that, or as short as you want. But I hope that just general concept of using the paintbrush tool helps. Okay, so we have a good starting point here to start with. If we were actually doing something for like an interior designer, okay, we would have like a decent place to start right here. All right, but for real estate, we're done. All right, so I hope that helped, and we're on to the next technique. All right, guys, this isn't a home run image or anything. I know this is a lot of the images we've looked at haven't really been finalized images, but I just pulled them up to prove some points, And this one particular, we have this railing right here, which gets exposed to the ocean water every day. So it's obviously going to be quite chewed up, okay? So again, we're going to jump in there. We're going to go ahead and make a new layer. And what are we going to do? We're not going to clone, okay? We're not going to clone. It's a kind of a theme throughout this whole lesson, I'd say. So we're going to select around here. We really want to clean that up, okay? We really want that to look, we want to keep that, but we don't want it to look that rough, all right? So we're going to show you how to do that. We're not going to clone each individual strand like that, each individual one of those things. Let's see how this looks. This thing isn't perfectly straight, but I think we'll do fine for our purposes, especially here. So I'm just selecting around that area we want to take care of. And we'd have to do it for this too, but I'm just going to do this one piece here for this lesson. And so I'm going to go ahead and Command Enter, and that'll give me a selection there. So what we have here is, like, you know, this thing, except for those little slits, it should really be pretty much a solid color, right? So we might just want to try, there's a couple different things we might want to look into. So I'm going to go ahead and get the gradient tool here, just right under the same menu as your paint bucket. And you can try the, I don't know necessarily what they're called, but there's a circular gradient and then there's just a normal gradient. And you might want to try both here, all right? So the way you do this is you'll have the gradient tool and you'll hold down Alt, and so you'll sample that color and you can see that color come up, okay? And then you're going to swap that, and then you're going to get another color, okay? And that might be the color on this side. Okay, this is a little tough example, but we'll see how this works. Okay, so we've got those two colors. So it's going to paint from that color to that color when I do this gradient. We're going to go ahead and try the normal gradient, okay? So let me get zoomed out a little bit here so we can have a better feel for this. So I'm going to do quite the gradient. Let's just see how that looks. Okay, that, to me, that looks pretty darn good, okay, because the sun is hitting that. Over here we might do something different, like sample over here and then over here, but this is looking pretty good, all right? And so we might just want to hide that selection just so we can see what we're doing. Command H. And so it doesn't look so natural though, right? Guys, just either one of these, just pull down the opacity to taste, okay? So we're at 79. That's a little bit too weak for me. You know, maybe right in there, 65 or so. And you can see the difference that makes. It really kind of, we're not faking anybody out at all anymore. You know, the slat things are still there, the imperfections are still there, whatever you want to call them, but we're totally making it look better and the eye's not going to them, okay? So this is, again, another quote-unquote cloning technique, and you have to do the same thing over here, and I'm not going to do this, but you would just sample for your first sample over here, and then you'd swap that around, and then sample for your second sample over here, all right? And then see, it's going light to dark, so you would drag this way. We didn't do the selection, so this isn't going to work, but you would do it that way, okay? So hopefully you got that, and I hope you get a lot of that, because that works really well. You could also use this circular gradient that works sometimes, okay? So give that a try, much better than cloning again. And again, if it looks unnatural, just play with your opacity, all right? All right, and the last technique we're going to talk about is frequency separation, okay? And this was an actual real example, and I got a client that he wanted me to kind of get in here and fix this stuff up. There had obviously been some like foliage growing over here or something, and the same type thing was going on over here, and he wanted me to take care of that. So I did use frequency separation on this, I remember. So I have an action for this. I can't go all into this. I know this video is getting a little long, so you guys should just, run on the internet. I personally would figure out how to do this yourself, and you can make your own action. I think that'd be the best. But what you're essentially doing is, I could even be misspeaking here a little bit. You're keeping the texture intact, all right? That's definitely what we want to do here. We want to keep that texture intact. So we can't paint here, right? Like we could with the toilet seat, okay? So I'm just going to grab a brush and make that a little smaller, and I'm at 1%. I might want to bump that up a little bit. and I'm just going to sample what I like. So in this instance, we're going to start over here. I kind of like this area, and you'll watch how this will just really nicely sort of clean this up, and it's going to maintain what we just sampled from. So we might want to sample again right in here and get a big kind of swooping brush, and it's keeping that color, all right, and it's keeping the texture. I kind of like a lighter, so I'm going to sample up there and kind of go over a lot of this again. And what we can do at the end is play with the opacity of this layer, okay? Or we could mask a little bit of it out if we don't like it, if we don't like it as much in certain areas, okay? So we'll go into that in a minute. Let me just kind of finish this up. I mean, we might want to just take that sign out. It'll probably be easier. I might do that at the end. So for now, we're just going to paint over that. Just try and make it look good. All right. So that's a good starting point. Let me zoom out and see how it looks. So it looks pretty good. All right. So the texture looks crazy right here, and then you can't really see it right there. Okay. So what that is the texture was a lot. We could see a lot more of the texture with that darkness on there, okay? So it's keeping that texture, but we don't want that, okay? So you're gonna have the layer that you're kind of working on when you get your frequency separation action, you're gonna wanna mask that, and we might just wanna brush this out a little bit slowly with maybe 1% flow, so you can do it very slowly, and you want a black brush, and just kind of maybe get that out. Bring back the realism a little bit. The thing about this is you don't want to, like, you want to keep the imperfections there, but you don't want to, like, do it too much. You know what I mean? You don't want it to look too perfect because the people might get mad about that, okay? So I'm done with it now. I would just go ahead and make a new clone layer, and there's that one dark spot. I might take my spot healing brush tool and see how that does. See, it didn't do good with the texture, so I'd probably do away with that and use the clone tool. So I kind of like this texture right over here. Get rid of that dark spot. And you'd probably want to keep this, but just for the sake of this lesson, I'm going to get rid of that. And this thing too, so we'll just get rid of this. With the clone stamp tool. All right, so we're almost there. All right, I think we got it. It just looks like a stick now. Okay, so you can see that's a really strong, let me move this up. That's a pretty strong difference. All right, let me group that. That's quite amazing for how long it took us, okay? And I made a little error there, but you could just, again, you could get in there and mask that, okay? So it was this layer. You could just mask that out. I went a little overboard there. So you need a black brush, and you just mask that out, okay? Oops, did something wrong there. So undo that little brush tool. I need to be on the mask. All right, so that was just a little overspill that I'm brushing out now with my mask, okay? I spilled over, and that corrected that. Okay, so why don't we jump over here? We could use that same layer. We just want to get on the layer, not on the mask, and get our brush back and just sample. Again, it's going to take the color and the darkness or lightness, and you don't have to worry about sampling like crazy. So maybe just sample again. Like with the clone tool, you have to sample every couple seconds, but with this, it's great. You just sample one time, you can go quite a ways. And I would probably go ahead and select that right there. So I'm not going to do it for you guys right now, but that's probably how I'd handle that. And I'm not going to do all this, okay? So we're at 1%, no wonder. I was kind of wondering, like, what's going on? Okay, so I don't know if you guys can go ahead and leave some comments if these screen things are good or not. They're kind of bugging me personally, because anyway. Okay, so we're at 4% now, so this should come in a lot faster, right? And you'll notice it keeps texture, so it's not too bad to run over the lines like so much. You know what I mean? Like you actually don't necessarily have to like make a selection. You know, it's going to paint that tree a little bit, whatever, but people aren't going to see that stuff. All right, so let's pull back and just check that out, okay? So keep your eye on that wall over there. See, I mean, that's a big difference, and that's really fast, okay? And, you know, that's what this whole lesson has been about, how to do these things. You know, my personal philosophy is I won't really slow down. Like, if there's some, like, ball here, yeah, I'll clone that. But if there was, like, a couch here, you know, that's up against this, I'm never going to clone, like, some crazy complex thing out for somebody. That's going to be a charge, right? If it takes me, like, 2 seconds, you know, literally, like, 30 seconds to do, I'll do it for them. But if it takes, and that's what I've been trying to show you today, except for that toilet seat example. That was the one where I kind of went out of the realm of what I normally do. But anyway, I just hope you're understanding, like, my philosophy is I don't do this for them unless it's, like, seriously really quick. Like, because I'm going, like, spending a couple minutes on a photo. If a clone job's going to take me like 5 or 10 minutes, you know, forget that. I'm not, that's just, you know, a little tidbit at the end here. That's how I handle it. Okay, you guys can do what you want. So again, we're moving quick, this frequency separation, you know, a lot of times we have these driveways that are like this, right? Like really a lot of times I'll see many weird imperfections on driveways, which sort of makes sense. They're being weathered and oil on them all the time. So just frequency separation, little action. You get in there, you get a brush, you sample the color you like, and literally, like, you know, I'm talking, I mean, really, like 10 seconds, guys, we're approaching, like, you know, 100% better. I mean, for stuff like this. Go ahead and sample again, maybe over here. All right. And let's just step back, and, you know, we can check the difference that makes. That really makes a big difference. And you can tone back on the opacity of this too. If you feel like it's gone a little bit too far, you can put a little back. And the truth is, you know, nobody could even call you on that. You know, you could actually see it there. You know what I mean? The sun might have been hitting it just in a way that, you know, it wasn't visible, whatever. You know, you can't really be called on anything like that. Okay, so it looks much better. And, you know, you're keeping a little bit of the original imperfections there, and it takes 2 seconds. All right. Okay, guys, that'll do it. I really want to review here because I know that was a lot of info. I think the key and the goal is to stay away from actual cloning, okay? I've kind of been saying that over and over, but I really think that's the key to great cloning. I know it's kind of a maybe paradox, if that's the right word. But so your first step maybe in the field is, do I have to clone? You know, can I move that and composite it out? So you have to be really wary in the field, and, you know, that's not cloning. If you're compositing something out like that, it's not cloning, right? Whenever possible, maybe use the healing brush, whatever I named it. I forget it every time, but I think it's called the spot healing brush. Use that as a solution or as a starting point, okay? And to me, that's not really cloning either. So, you know, we're at 2.2 here, and we're not cloning still. All right, so utilize similar patterns and use them to copy and transform and mask them. So remember when we did that bathroom cabinetry and we copied it over and we kind of transformed and distorted it, and then we masked the edges, okay? That's not cloning either, right? And that's a very powerful technique that'll come up a lot, okay? To smooth imperfections, a lot of times when we want to keep the texture, like on driveways or stucco walls, we're going to use frequency separation. What's the theme here? Again, not cloning. It's amazing, right? All this cloning is not cloning. And then kind of before that, we use the paintbrush, which that wasn't the greatest example I used with the paintbrush where we did the toilet, but I think you can see still from that example how powerful it would be when you can just get in there and use that paintbrush for, you know, something that's a solid color, okay? Just paint away. And I got to say, again, that was one of the times when my cloning really jumped through the roof when I realized that you can just paint things. And don't forget about the gradients and the paintbrush, both not cloning, right? Okay. And lastly, you know, when you really have to, I think you saw during the lesson, you know, sometimes I do use the clone tool when you just can't, and that obviously is cloning. But, you know, maybe the 5 or 6 points that I just talked about, they weren't cloning, okay? So I really want you to keep that in mind and keep the easiest and most effective and efficient ways to do this stuff in mind. And I think you'll start, when you really start getting these tools in your bag, you'll start realizing, oh, I can move this right now. I can move this cable under the TV right now, and I won't have to deal with that in post, okay, at all. It'll just take me 2 seconds. Or, I could just frequency separate that driveway if they ask me about that. Or I could just kick that dog's toy out in the middle of the carpet. Don't forget that one, because I do that a lot. Just, you don't want to touch something, just kick it out in the middle, okay, and I think the thing you should be keeping in your mind, what's the quickest thing? Is it grabbing that dog's toy and moving it somewhere, and then it's going to be in your way again later? No, that's not going to be the quickest, most efficient thing to do. Just kick it out in the middle of the floor. But the point here is, be keeping in mind what's the quickest way for you to do things. Not what way can I do it to get it all in camera? No, that's why would we want to do that? That's what's the quickest and most efficient way, okay? And a lot of times, like I said, it's kind of ironic, but it's kicking a dog's toy out in the middle of the camera. I mean, out in the middle of the floor, or like just forgetting about the driveway and the fact that it's all messed up. We can just 2 seconds frequency separate it, okay? And get that texture, keep that texture, and get those little splotches out of there. All right? So guys, I hope you got a lot out of that. And don't forget to drop by my website to check out the One Light Real Estate Photography tutorial, where we go into a lot more things concerning lighting and stuff like this. So I will see you for the next one. All right? Bye-bye.